As we're learning more about the attack yesterday on the U.S. Embassy in Libya and the death of the U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, tonight, why the U.S. government shouldn't be surprised by what happened in Libya. It's a reality check you won't see anywhere else.
Well, details behind the murder of U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other U.S. citizens during an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi are beginning to take shape. And it looks like what the CIA calls blowback may be the biggest issue here. Authorities now say they no longer believe it was just a mob scene, rather a coordinated attack by militants from an Islamist group, Ansar al-Sharia, a little-known Islamist group inside of Libya, inspired by and possibly connected to al-Qaeda. The first wave got inside of the compound, and then a second wave penetrated a secure location inside the building. Once inside, the militants killed Stevens and 3 others. Now, reports from the scene say that the attackers were armed with guns and even used a rocket-propelled grenade. As one reporter points out, that RPG is a weapon not traditionally carried by protesters, but commonly used by terrorists. Yes, a weapon that was purchased in large quantities by the Saudis and Qatar to arm Libyan rebels just a year ago. The United States gave $25 million to the Libyan rebels to support the opposition against Muammar Gaddafi. But then, in May of 2011, according to numerous reports, the U.S. asked the Saudis to arm the Libyan rebels. By June, according to Reuters, France became the first NATO country to arm the Libyan rebels directly. The question then, though, who were those rebels and who were the opposition forces? Because even as the weapons and the money were flowing to opposition forces in Libya, there were plenty of reports that behind the opposition were al-Qaeda fighters. In spring of 2011, an Italian newspaper interviewed Abdel Hakim al-Hasidi, the Libyan rebel leader, and he told the newspaper that jihadists who fought against U.S. and NATO troops in Afghanistan and in Iraq were on the front lines of the battle against Gaddafi's regime. Quote, Mr. al-Hasidi admitted that he had earlier fought against the foreign invasion in Afghanistan before being captured in 2002 in Pakistan. He was later handed over to the U.S. and then held in Libya before being released in 2008. Mr. al-Hasidi insisted that his fighters are patriots and good Muslims, not terrorists, but added that the members of al-Qaeda are good Muslims and are fighting against the invader. So what you need to know is what we already knew. Remember that term used by the CIA, blowback? It simply means unintended consequences of U.S. foreign policy. In the case of Libya, here's how blowback works. Al-Qaeda fighters were at the head of the Libyan opposition to overthrow Gaddafi. The U.S. knew it, NATO knew it, and millions of Americans knew it. Even so, we allowed hundreds of millions of dollars from the Saudis, from Kuwait, from the UAE, Qatar, and the U.S. to flow to those rebels. We encouraged weapons by the tens of thousands to be given to those rebels. And it was both parties here in the U.S., Republicans and Democrats, who supported that action in Libya. Today, in response to the killing of the U.S. ambassador, the Pentagon has now moved U.S. warships to the coast of Libya. Blowback. Unintended consequences of 40 years of foreign policy in the Middle East that we just do not seem to learn from. And that is Reality Check.
If you would like to make your voice heard on the story, head over to Ben's Facebook page. You can find it by searching Ben Swan, WXIX.